Welcome to This Week in Parliament with me, George AEC. We bring you highlights of the major events that took place in the Parliament of Ghana for the week ending February 28, 2025. At the commencement of the business week, the Minister for Health, Kwabena Akando, was in the chamber to brief the House on the recent expose by the BBC on a looming case of opioid epidemic in Ghana.
The increasing infiltration of illicit opioids into our country is indeed a matter of grave public health and national security concern. Thank you for the opportunity to share on the insight into the key issues related to the growing threat that illegal opioids pose to the health and safety of our people, especially the youth. Mr. Speaker, opioids serve a critical role in modern medicine, providing relief from pain. However, their misuse has led to devastating addiction crisis worldwide, and Ghana is no exception. In West Africa, unregulated painkillers flood local markets, often smuggled through weak borders, controls, and distributed by criminal networks. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's FDA has confirmed that ongoing market surveillance has uncovered unregistered tramadol brands.
The minister's statement drew comments from MPs who shared first-hand experience of the opioid abuse by some Ghanaian youth and the need for immediate action.
And recently, in the last 3 weeks, one of the security personnel in the school was attacked by a gang of drug addicts and is now in 37 military hospital in a coma. Mr. Speaker, the ramifications of this illicit drug inflow into Ghana goes beyond the large scale, but it's affecting people's lives. It's affecting the security in our schools. It's affecting the security of our ordinary citizens. And Mr. Speaker, the law enforcement agencies responsible for this need to be strengthened. We had, up until a few weeks ago, collaboration between the U.S. government, specifically the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, with the government of Ghana in helping to combat some of this transnational crime and illicit drug use. Since the suspension of this, Mr. Speaker, I believe that may have contributed to what we are seeing. We need to re-engage some of these international agencies and strengthening our capacity to monitor what's going on in our borders and ensure that when we actually do track down these criminals, the prosecution of them and effective implementation of our regulations is actually done in order to be a disincentive for those who wish to use Ghana as a transit point. Our youth are really increasingly becoming a target of all of this. And Mr. Speaker, this is a national security issue because it affects our country in so many ways. It's affecting so many sectors, and it will probably require a whole, multidimensional approach in order to actually effectively deal with this issue.
President John Dramani Mahama, in fulfillment of Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution, was in Parliament to deliver a State of the Nation address on Thursday. While painting a picture of a broken economy handed over to him by his predecessor, President Mahama expressed absolute resolution in dealing with the mess.
It's an important opportunity to change course and move off the slippery slopes our country had been descending that had caused so much economic pain, suffering, and grief to our people. In their collective wisdom and with resounding clarity, the Ghanaian people chose to chart a new path to reset the country's economy. And through their votes, they made it clear that they will henceforth demand the highest standards of governance. My administration inherited an energy sector on the brink of collapse. It was weighed down by unsustainable debt. This unfortunate situation has led to many independent power producers and fuel suppliers threatening to cease their operations. Mr. Speaker, listen to this. Despite collecting over 45 billion cedis in energy sector levies, ESLA, over the last 8 years, the outgone administration has left the Ghanaian people with an energy sector burdened with a staggering debt of 70 billion cedis as of December 2024. It is of deep concern that several state-owned enterprises in the energy sector are struggling to stay afloat, and unless urgent interventions are made, many of them will go under. My administration inherited an energy sector on the brink of collapse. it was weighed down by unsustainable debt. This unfortunate situation has led to many independent power producers and fuel suppliers threatening to cease their operations. Mr. Speaker, listen to this. Despite collecting over 45 billion cedis in energy sector levies, ESLA, over the last 8 years, the outgone administration has left the Ghanaian people with an energy sector burdened with a staggering debt of 70 billion cedis as of December 2024. It is of deep concern that several state-owned enterprises in the energy sector are struggling to stay afloat, and unless urgent interventions are made, many of them will go under.
To the President's State of the Nation address, leaders of the House had these statements to make.
Right Honorable Speaker, we wish to thank His Excellency the President for fulfilling his constitutional obligations under Article 67 and duly presenting to us a message on the state of the nation. So, Speaker, things are clearly bleak. So, Speaker, I see on this side of the House my colleagues in black. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious that they left this economy in a miserable state. And the attire that they adorn today says it all. But this side is in white because His Excellency the President, we knew very well, was bringing to us a message of hope. Mr. Speaker, our elders have cautioned that you don't leave your crown in the hands of a hyena as a caretaker when you are traveling. Don't be surprised when you come back and the carcasses of all your livestock are gone.
He has today told us that we have 2.2 million Ghanaians unemployed. But what he has forgotten, that in his administration, in less than 100 days, all we know is sack them, sack them, sack them, dismiss her, dismiss her, dismiss her. Mr. Speaker, on the streets of Accra today, the youth of the country are saying that Mahama Baku termination baby. Mr. Speaker, we are happy to hear from the President that he is going to launch the Nkommo Wo Ho. We are happy to hear this, but we are curious because only yesterday we heard of a confirm.
On Friday, before the close of business for the week, the majority leader, Mahama, presented the business statement for the oncoming week.
Pursuant to Order 91-2, statements may be made by ministers and honorable members. Papers and reports may be laid. Motions and resolutions and motions and consequential resolutions may be made, debated, and taken. And Mr. Speaker, if you recall, you directed that the Minister for Energy and Green Transition should appear before the House to brief us on measures being taken towards the gradual transition of the country to the use of clean and renewable energy. So the Minister has been scheduled for Tuesday, 4th of March 2025. For that purpose, we urge the Minister to avail himself so that we'll be briefed. Thursday, 6th March 2025 is the Independence Day and is a public holiday and will be observed as such, as a statutory holiday, so this House will not be sitting. So, Speaker, the major business for next week will be the debate on the message on the state of the nation. So, Speaker, a motion to thank His Excellency the President for the message on the state of the nation will be moved on Tuesday, 4th of March 2025. Honourable members are therefore urged to participate actively in the debate. We also decided at the committee meeting that next week, Wednesday, we will invite the Governor of the Bank of Ghana as an independent constitutional body to come to this House and brief us on the pricing of the new Bank of Ghana head office building, how the price variations took place, what the quantities were, and the justification for the construction of the new Bank of Ghana headquarters. And so this is programmed for next week, that this House is inviting the Governor of the Bank of Ghana to come and brief us on the pricing of the Bank of Ghana head office building. And so I urge members on Wednesday to show up so that we will hear from the Governor on the pricing of the Bank of Ghana head office. I also take on board the proposal that we should consider having the relevant sector ministers to present policy proposals on major policies that this government has pronounced. I think that it would be a good idea for the relevant sector ministers to come and present the policy documents to us, but the issue is timing, whether it should be before the budget, or it should be after the budget. I will convey the message to them. It's a good proposal. I will convey the message to them and see whether they are prepared to come before us.
In a heated debate of fairness against equity, the proposed ratio by the majority side of the Business Committee on the debate to be held on the President's State of the Nation address took center stage.
At the Business Committee meeting, the Speaker, what happened at the committee meeting was that when the matter came up, we argued and argued and argued, same way that we're arguing in the chamber, and there was no consensus. So I referred them to the appropriate orders 2842 and said, if you cannot come to a consensus, which is what the rules say, that you should decide by consensus. If you cannot come to a consensus, then you will have to put it to a vote. And the chairman, Honorable Ricketts, he was chairing. I was there. I'm the chairman, but I was not chairing. But he was chairing. He put it to a vote. A voice vote first. Then there was some disagreement. We said, let's do head count. They said they didn't want their heads to be counted. They didn't want their heads to be counted. So I even encouraged them to cover their heads so that we'll count the other available heads. On a lighter note, Mr. Speaker, we joked about it. So we counted, and the majority side were 7. And then they said they wanted it recorded, that they protested. To say you want something recorded, that you are protesting against it, that you don't recognize it, doesn't mean that a vote was not taken. It also doesn't mean that you didn't lose the vote. Because the rules are clear that you put the matter to a vote. You either win or you lose, or you abstain. You didn't want to abstain, also didn't want your head to be counted. So how are we to go about it? So we said they should count those who were voting for it. So they counted, and 7 voted for. And there were 4. So we assume that naturally the 4 were either abstaining or voting against. So the matter could not have been referred to this House to take a decision. There's no way that the matter was referred to this House to take a decision. No matter what the secretary wrote there, because of this same matter, we said the secretary should tell us exactly what our conclusions were at the meeting. Because we didn't want a situation where we will get to the chamber and there will be a dispute as to what had actually happened. So the secretary then indicated to us in their presence the conclusion that there was a vote, and the vote was 7 in favor of, and we didn't know whether the 4 were abstaining or they were voting against, but they wanted to record it that they were against the position that we had taken. And that is it. There was no decision there that the matter was being referred.
Mr. Speaker, I want to invite you to the Constitution. I want to invite you to the Constitution in Article 104. And with your permission, I read. Mr. Speaker, except as otherwise provided in the Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of majority of members present and voting, with at least half of members of Parliament present. Mr. Speaker, on page 2 of the business statement, the conclusion part, it reads that the minority, however, gave the indication that they were not part of the decision and accordingly do not recognize the vote. The committee recommends the committee accordingly submit the matter for the consideration of the House. The consideration of the House implies we need a decision quorum, which is 138. I invite you, we cannot take that decision at the moment. We don't have 138 members in this chamber, and we cannot take a decision because the committee recommends for the House to adopt it. And I invite you that, Mr. Speaker, we can approve the business statement and stand down this very matter because it is for the consideration of the House.
Personally, I think I've had this discussion with the Speaker. I think the majority leader was there. This issue was raised. And according to him, he wanted us to go by the status quo, that 1 year, 1 year. I was there when this decision, leader, you let me finish. I'll give you the opportunity. When this issue was raised, to the effect that the majority will be shortchanged, they will not get enough. Honorable members, please allow me to speak. Will be shortchanged, will not get enough space to also air their views. Their constituents would like to hear them. The Speaker insisted that there are so many means a member can be heard. There are so many means a member who is desirous to be heard that is indeed doing work in the chamber can be done. It can be done through questions. As this morning, I was in a way trying to invite my members from the majority to ask questions. They can come through statements, they can come through motions, and all these are ways that members who are desirous to make industry in the chamber can do. When it comes to contributions and comes to debate, normally the practice of the House and by extension to other So, honorable members, what I'm saying, I'm not changing anything. I personally would like to go by the status quo, but the business committee has taken a decision. I think what the minority leader is saying is to refer to the Speaker. Again, I think is in order.
To end our highlights for the week, we leave you with some MPs' reaction to the President's State of the Nation's address.
Irrespective of how you know or you knew that the economy was in tatters, when you are confronted with the realities, as His Excellency the President told us on the floor of the House today, you will be left with no option than to be utterly shocked. And I believe that everybody who listened to the President today will be shocked. The realities as far as Agenda 111 is concerned is that number one, we needed about 1.7 billion dollars for the project. That's the first fact. The number two fact is that as at the time Mr. Nkommo Wo Ho handed over as President of the Republic of Ghana, they had spent not less than $400 million. Now, per their own calculation, if you do $18 million per one hospital, you should be finishing not less than 22 of the Agenda 111 projects. Sadly, as I speak to you today, not a single Agenda 111 project has been operationalized. It's in use, such that you, as you stand here today, you can walk to that facility for healthcare delivery. Now, I have been tasked to advise His Excellency the President on the way forward. Now, the first thing the President has asked me to do is to audit the whole project. And once we audit the project and we know the status of the project, then we communicate effectively to Ghanaians how we manage Agenda 111. But of course, as the President stated,
I'm expecting the President to tomorrow tell us what the current state of our economy is, and then the plans to get out of the doldrums. The President has already described the economy as a crime scene. So I'm expecting the President to tell us the macroeconomic indicators. Where are we now? And then we all know the biggest challenge facing this country is youth unemployment. What are the plans what are the pathways to get out of youth unemployment? How is the 24-hour economy going to dovetail into the employment creation? So one, plans about employment creation. Two, how to stabilize the macroeconomic stability. Three, how to bridge the gap, the financing gap, especially in health. So these are the things that I'm expecting the President to do. He should also tell us the challenges that we are facing in the energy sector, how we are going to go out. We also want to find out from the President, how are the numbers suddenly from the free senior high changing from 3.5 million to 5.7 million. We want to find out what the challenges are. We want to also find out from the President how the security situations in the country is. We see the threats of terrorism all around us. Internal security, external security, how is it going to turn out? Actually, we are expecting the President to tell us the blueprint for the next year and the 3 beyond.
As I'm speaking to you, Achiase Hospital, it's not all of them. It's not all of them that is operational as ready. But Achiase Hospital, as I'm talking to you, all those who were sacked have been brought back. And on Monday, I'm challenging GBC. You go to Achiase Hospital, they have all equipment state of the art because of staff problem. And the few who were there were sacked because they were going to be, the appointment was going to be terminated. They are back. And they are starting on Monday. So a couple of the agendas.
Or the staff?
I'm talking about the fact that the President said none is operational. So let's use the word operational. If you have a facility, you have equipment, you have wards, and the staff are sacked because we have won elections, all of you should leave. How would you expect to be operational? And that is what happened to a couple of them, including Achiase. Now Achiase, by God's grace, is starting on Monday.